all is well. So what we have going on right now is teachers who are increasingly advocating for a higher pay. However, they don't teach the child what they need to know, and they follow a curriculum that isn't even putting a dent in the child's education. And then we have the legislative branches in Texas who are fighting against each other because no one wants to pass the school voucher law or program. They have been in a special session for the last few weeks now, trying to get this school voucher program passed and trying to negotiate to implement a law that's going to work for everyone. However, the Democrats are looking at this as if it's a taxpayer issue, and their sole concern is how much money are the public schools still going to make if they're taking money away from the public schools and giving them to the parents. First and foremost, that should not be a worry at all, because at the end of the day, I would imagine that all of our goals is to educate the child. It should have nothing to do with taxpayer dollars or how much this public school is going to get or how much this teacher is going to make. That doesn't matter. The goal, the end objective should be educating that whole child. It doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter how much money you have to pull from over here to put over there. It doesn't matter, because education should be the priority, right? But they're making it political like they always do. And then they want to go back and forth and try to play with the people's emotions. But the good thing is, you don't need the government to tell you whether you can pull your child out of school. You can withdraw your child and do whatever you want. However, what the school vouchers were going to do is give you extra money so that you would have extra aid to help you pay for programs like private tutoring or private schooling, or if you wanted to homeschool your child yourself so that you know exactly what they're learning. But again, we don't need them. So because we don't need to depend on them, that means that you can join the rest of the parents who are withdrawing their children at alarming rates since 2022 to make sure that your child is receiving the best quality education. Because right now, the school system is a sham. Been a sham, okay? Now, with every system that was created in the United States, it's always been an origin story. Someone had to create some type of idea, come up with an idea, whether it was corrupt or from a good place, as to how they wanted to originate this system or this corporation or this business, right? That's all school is. It's basically a big business. 1915 was when it all started. Before 1915, homeschooling was the main source of education. And I talk about this in a previous video, but I wanted to reiterate because right now everyone is going back and forth about homeschooling, withdrawing, and all the things. So 1915, General Education Board was founded. And from there, that's when things started to go downhill for education. Understand that before this program was founded, the literacy rates in the United States were over 90%. Everybody could read, write, print their name, write in cursive. Everyone was fluent in English and, didn't have to be in remedial courses, all the things. We had a lot of entrepreneurs back then. People built their own businesses from the ground up without loans, without having to depend on the government. So much was going on because they had the proper knowledge. Right? And when you have knowledge about things, you can be wise about it and you move a certain way. The government knows this. They don't need everyone to be wise. They don't need everyone to have their own. They don't need everyone to own something. They need some people to depend on them, right? So that they can manipulate you and continually propagandize you like they know how to do. So when this educational board was founded, it was not interested in encouraging critical thinking for yourself. Rather, its focus was organizing children and creating reliable, predictable, and obedient citizens. They wanted your child to be predictable, reliable, and obedient. Look at the way they place the children in classes, how they tell them to line up, the buses that they put them on, the food that they feed them in the schools. Look at everything that happens in the school system. And you tell me that the government has your best interest and your child's best interest at heart, because they don't. So now we have people fighting over here, teachers fighting over there, all the while parents are pulling their children out of schools and trying to figure it out. Well, you don't have to figure it out. All you need to know is that getting back to basics is the proper thing to do. Homeschooling your child is what's right to do. Making sure that you are incorporating God's law first and foremost is the most right thing you could ever do. That foundation is going to put your child into gear for reading, writing, arithmetic. So while the government is fighting, while everything is going on, elections are early elections have already started in Texas and are next week, I believe. All of these things, just understand and know that you don't need the government's approval, okay? Because right now, as you can see, they're not concerned about the actual citizens. Their concern is politics. How can they make things work politically? How is it going to make sense politically, okay? And that's not what we need. What you're supposed to do when you're governing a people is be solely concerned about the needs of that people, of that person, of that community. It's not about politics. So politicians, they know how to sweet talk you. They know what to say. They know how to say it in order to get a community to rally behind them and vote for them every single time. However, they never change their ways. They never change the communities. They don't change the schooling system. Everything is always in limbo. There's always we're going to get to it. It's been we're going to get to it for 50 years now. And the school system is in the most detrimental state it's ever been in. In saying that, understand that because of the origin, because of the corruptness, because of the need for greed and the money, schooling is a business and they don't care about the child. But now, at alarming rates, I'm seeing that people are pulling their children out. And what my experience was being in an elementary school, teaching for over a year, 4th and 5th grade, I saw that the curriculum is completely outdated. One teacher cannot, and I repeat, cannot organize a classroom of 18 to 21 students on a given day. Understand that the teacher shortage is completely real. And there could be days where teachers are calling off just simply because, and that adds even more pressure on that one teacher to be able to teach anything to the child. You don't have time to sit down with the children individually to get to know them, to really hone in and help them on their strategies or help them in their subject matters, because every child learns on different levels. Every child learns a different way. I may learn visually. You may be more tactile. You may be more hands-on. They learn differently. They understand things in a different way. I may be skilled in math while the person sitting next to me is skilled in reading. So how can you allot a time frame to tell a teacher that they have to teach this subject to 20 plus students in order for them to attain it? And then give them a state-funded test every year to put the children in categories. Imagine being 10 years old, but you're on a 1st grade reading level, and they're continually pushing you ahead and telling you that, oh, well, we have to keep on pushing you. And in every grade you go to a new teacher, but that new teacher still doesn't have time. And they go ahead and they keep pushing you out. You go to high school, you're still on a 2nd grade level. The older you get, the harder it is to learn that foundational concept. So if you don't learn it, I'm not saying you can't, because you can. It just gets a little harder sometimes. And they push you out of high school and now you're into the real world. What have you learned? How to go to homecoming dances? How to run in PE for 15 minutes? What did you actually learn? You learned how to fake it till you made it, because that's exactly what a lot of us did. And then we actually learn about real life concepts after graduation, which is, I would assume, supposed to be the objective of public school in the first place, right? It's a big scheme, okay? And all I have been telling people lately is take your child out of school. Even if you don't feel like you have the time, take your child out of school, find a private tutor for them, find a homeschool program for them. Kids do not need to be in school for 7 to 8 hours a day anyway, because they're not even learning anything. And think about the attention span of a child. After about 3 or 4 hours of that same subject being thrown at them, they're not going to understand it, especially if they're not on the same level. Just placing our children in this system mainly for babysitting purposes, let's be honest, because parents have to work to afford the luxuries, to afford the house, to afford the car, to afford all of the things that we probably don't need, right? To afford all of these things, so we have to work. Dad's at work for 60 hours a week. Mom's at work for 40 hours a week. Nobody has time to homeschool these children. Nobody has time to focus on these children. YouTube is watching the children. Netflix, out of all things, is watching the children. These children know more about shows I don't watch, and they shouldn't be watching either, than anybody I know. The wrong apps, let's just say that, is raising the kids because the parents don't have time. And if they do have time, they don't know how to teach the children because they were never taught the proper way. At some point, you got to break that cycle. At some point, you have to say enough is enough. I need to cut back on hours, or we need to figure out how we can manage our finances without me working so much so I can stay at home and be focused on the children, because that is the priority. Your children are and should be your priority. Raising them to be great citizens with a foundation built in God. That should be your priority. Not chasing a check or chasing a bag or jet setting around the world or none of that. Because the educational system is failing your child. And I've seen it firsthand. So, with that being said, I hope that this video gives you insight and also helps you to maybe make a decision. Or if you don't want to make a decision, tell somebody else to make a decision to pull their child out of school. If you don't know what to do, inbox me. If you need to create a community to help for your neighbors to pitch in, maybe somebody that stays at home on your block can be the one to help homeschool your children if you're in a different state other than Texas. I mean, my goodness, there are so many resources that you can use. There are so many things that can be done, okay? We do not have to depend on the government, and we do not have to depend on public school systems. So have a good one, y'all.